G'day. What we've got here is a Leyland P76 V8. This one was built in 1974. I bought it about 6 months ago, $800, which is pretty good for a 1970s classic in such a good condition. I want to tell you a little bit about this car and what my plans are for it. This particular car is done in this green colour, which a lot of people don't like. It's known as Spanish olive. The basic characteristics of the car: it weighs around about 1275 kilograms, fully loaded with everything in it. That's a V8 motor, Borg-Warner transmission, Borg-Warner rear axle. Up front we've got ventilated disc brakes. Came standard with every P76 from the moment they rolled off the production line. Up the back we've got a set of drum brakes. The suspension, MacPherson struts up the front, coil springs by 4-link up the rear. So a pretty good basic setup. Complemented with that, we've also got a rack and pinion steering rack up the front, which in these cars was available either in power steer or manual. Turning circle, round about 11 metres. So it's a pretty tight, nippy car in around traffic if it weren't for the mass of the vehicle. As I said before, the weight's fairly low, but the good thing with the weight of this car, only about 52% of the weight is actually over the front wheels. The rest, the 48%, is at the back. Now that's an ideal combination if you want a vehicle that handles well. And whilst it looks big and ungainly, these vehicles actually do handle very, very well. That sort of weight distribution is around about what everybody's trying to achieve with sports cars. In fact, the new Toyota 86 GT has exactly the same sort of weight distribution and exactly the same overall mass of their vehicle. Not sort of suggesting that this is going to go around corners like a GT, because it obviously won't. This was designed as a family passenger car, which it does really, really well. What we're going to do though is recognise some of its limitations, try and modify them, bring this car up to the 20th century, 21st century actually we're in, isn't it? By making it run on E85. The reason for that is because that's the fuel of the future. We're also going to fuel inject the motor. As a result of that, the power of this motor is actually going to go up quite considerably, so it is worth considering that suspension setup. Remember, this original suspension was designed around the tyres of the time. Tyres of the time at that particular juncture in the world, they were cross plies. And cross plies, as we all know today, are fairly diabolical things to drive on if you've ever done it. But nowadays we've got the luxury of these wonderful new radial ply tyres, and we're going to make this car work on those tyres. The reason we're going to make it work is because we're going to have to modify the suspension a little bit. As I said before, there's some basic characteristics of the suspension we don't want to lose though. 8 inches of travel at the front, 12 inches at the rear. Great combination again for soaking up those bumps in the Australian roads. But what happens with this suspension, it has this characteristic of turning in. As you go over bumps, instead of the wheels being splayed out like they ideally should be with the radial tyres, as this car bumps up, it'll actually splay in at the front, and that's not very good, because then the contact surface area of those front tyres becomes less, and we don't want that. So we're going to have to find a way that makes this suspension go linear, or at least go nice straight up and down on both sides. So that'll need some modifications, and we're going to have a look at that with some of our friends. The other thing with this car too is the body, whilst it looks great, I've been doing a little bit of investigation around it, and it does have a few bits and pieces that do concern me, not the least of which is what I'm finding bogs sort of sticking through holes. So the previous owner at some stage has taken it off the road and given it a bit of a spruce up, but hasn't done the job properly because he hasn't actually welded any steel in there, and we're going to be welding a fair bit of steel. If we find major problems with panels and things like that, we do have enough bits around to replace them, which is really great. And we're not going to take any other Leylands off the road to do that, so be rest assured that I'm not one of those people that will wreck a good car to make a better one. The other thing is, it has a laminated screen, the wipers are recessed under there, this is all for good airflow, has a distinct wedge shape, but I'm pretty keen on getting it going, and we'll work through that in the years to come. Okay, thank you.